Hi there, my name's Anna and welcome back to my art channel. So in today's video, we're drawing a jellyfish using colored pencils. And as you can see, I'm sketching out my jellyfish here, just using a very light hand and using a colored pencil for this. It's a blue colored pencil and it's just a really rough sketch. For this piece, I'm mostly using very soft colored pencils. In this case, I'm using a lot of my Prismacolors and also a black and white from the Derwent drawing set, which are also very soft and opaque, just because I wanted to finish this piece relatively fast and I didn't have a lot of patience. So I'm using different shades of blue and purple, mostly for this piece, and some black for the background. And you can see I've already started colouring in my jellyfish. I'm colouring the inside of his little cap, and I'm using dark shades of blue closer to the inside of the cap, and as I go out I'm adding some lighter blue and purple as well, and also some white little specks, and I'm using my Derwent drawing Chinese white to draw those in. Also, I have to be a little bit careful to preserve those white areas because the paper unfortunately doesn't have a lot of tooth, so I can't do a ton of layering here. I think those white specks down there were also done preserving the white of the paper a little bit alongside using the white pencil. And now I'm sketching in, or I'm colouring out the top of the jellyfish. I don't actually know the anatomy of a jellyfish properly. And I'm starting off with a light hand and just kind of putting the colours down where I see them. In the middle of the jellyfish, the area is relatively light and it's a relatively cool blue. And then there's some deeper colours along the side and underneath that middle portion where I'm using colours going towards purple and ultramarine, and those are slightly darker. And as I add more colour, I start to add a little bit more pressure, slowly burnishing the colours into each other. And you can see by doing this, the colour smooths out nicely. The more colour and pressure I add, the smoother my object becomes. But of course, when you do that, you lose the tooth of the paper entirely and you can't add a ton of colour over top anymore, which caused some trouble trying to add in those white little specks because it was too large an area to preserve all of those little white spots and draw around it. It would have been too difficult to get a smooth finish, so I decided to add them in later, and that was a little bit difficult. I'm also using a colourless blender marker to smooth out some of the areas. The alcohol will dissolve the paint at the pigment and move it around a little bit to smooth things out. And here you can see I'm using that Derwent Chinese white, and usually it shows up much better, but it didn't show up very well in this case because I had already flattened the tooth of the paper, so I used a white ink pen, which is meant to be suitable for use on top of colored pencils, and I drew in those little white spots with the ink pen, and that worked out fairly nicely. And here you can see I'm working on the bottom portion of the jellyfish. This portion's a lot lighter. I'm using some pinks, purple, and using a very light hand and preserving a lot of the white of the paper also. Just shading in those little bubbly bits, shading around those shapes. And there you can also see I'm working on the distant jellyfish a little bit, and that one's out of the focus, so I'm not adding a ton of detail and I'm not trying to have crisp edges at all. Starting to work on the background a little bit, which is not entirely exciting. It's basically just a black background, but I'm also using purples and blues to make that black look a bit more interesting. And here you can see me using some see-through paper to kind of protect my surface a little bit from smudging paint around with my hand. I don't use it the entire time. It would have been better, of course, but I just forgot then. And because I wasn't feeling terribly patient with this piece, I didn't draw out the background using very fine little roundy motions. I kind of just scribbled in my black and the other colors for the background very messily, but it turned out fine in the end because these are very soft pencils, and also because I used that colourless blender to blend out the pigment. I didn't end up with any grainy texture in the end. For the edges of this piece, it's important to have a very sharp pencil. In general, you should keep your pencil fairly sharp. It's not as important with these softer pencils, it seems, but yeah, there where you want clear definitions, you definitely want a sharp pencil. And here you can see I'm working around the tentacles of the jellyfish, preserving that white of the paper. And there's nothing really more infuriating than doing a background using colored pencils. It just takes so long. It takes as long as it does covering the same surface of your subject, I feel like sometimes. But it does look a lot nicer, of course, with that black contrast, with the contrast of the black and the vibrant blue. And by using this colourless blender, I'm also speeding up the process a lot. And I'm using both my my Derwent black, and I'm using my Prismacolor black, and just depending on how much definition I need. The Derwent drawing black is a very large lead, and it's a bit harder to get a sharp edge when I need it, but it lays down the color a little bit quicker, I feel like. Adding some color to that distant jellyfish, and burnishing it with the white pencil to make it look out of focus and kind of smooth and blended into the background. And here you can see how messy I'm being. I'm just scribbling in that background with that black pencil. And there in the corner I have a little bit of a light area. It might be another little jellyfish showing up there in the corner. So I've used some blues and purples and white to make that little bluish light area. Working on that little jellyfish there in the background some more. It's basically the same colors I'm using, just a lot lighter, and the jellyfish is more out of focus, so there's less clear edges. And again, I'm using my colourless blender to blend everything a little bit, just to move the colour around a little bit. So now you don't really see any white of the paper anymore, but it looks a bit blotchy that way. Working on the jellyfish a little bit more, just adding some more pinks and purples, and burnishing a little bit more using that white pencil in the jellyfish in the background. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, remember to give me a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I hope you are enjoying it. And now I'm going over the entire background again with my black pencil. Now that I've filled in the color. I'm just trying to smooth it out with the black pencil, and even though there's not a lot of texture left on the paper, I do think I managed to blend it out nicely to get a nice matte black finish. Working around the details of the front jellyfish a little bit more to add some definition. And just filling out the background again using the black. And a lot of pressure in this case. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again soon in one of my next videos. So take care and bye bye.